When Dr. Alexander Tenorio began his residency program at UC San Diego Health, he didn't expect to see a lot of migrants and asylum seekers. After all, he specializes in brain surgery. But then he covered a couple of shifts in the trauma unit.
And I just started noticing all these brain and spinal cord injuries from migrants coming in. And the reason it stuck with me is because my parents, they're immigrants, they crossed the same border, so that was very personal to me, so I started just looking into it.
These patients had something else in common. All of them had fallen from the San Diego section of the border wall. Tenorio saw broken backs, collapsed lungs, and severe brain trauma.
Once you get above 10 feet, that's when you start seeing these injuries that look like high energy car accidents.
UC San Diego Health is on pace to receive more than 360 border wall related hospital admissions in 2023, a new record. In fact, the hospital has seen a record number of border patients every year since 2019. That's when the Trump administration increased the border wall height from 17 feet to 30 feet. And the numbers just keep going up.
So in 2018, only less than a dozen patients falling off the wall with serious injuries. And now it's, 340 or plus a year, or at least 2 a day.
Dr. Jay Doucette is head of the trauma unit at UC San Diego Medical Health Center in Hillcrest. He's been on the front lines of this epidemic since the beginning.
Before, we might see a foot fracture or leg fracture. Now we're seeing everything. Severe brain injuries, crossed chests, pelvic fractures.
Records also show that more women are being hospitalized from border falls. In 2019, less than a quarter of admissions were women. So far in 2023, almost half of fall patients have been women, including more than 20 who were pregnant. This impacts the entire hospital system. Median cost per patient is almost $300,000. The vast majority of those costs are paid for by taxpayers, mostly through the state's Medi-Cal system. These cases also required highly trained specialists who are already overburdened with patients. Doucette says people needing spinal surgery are particularly impacted.
There are very few spine surgeons available in San Diego. And the waiting time for all patients, not just border fall patients, but for anybody in San Diego who has a spine fracture, they're now waiting twice as long as the national average to get their fractures fixed.
Both Drs. Tenorio and Doucette have been sounding the alarm, trying to get people in positions of power to recognize this as a public health crisis. Tenorio was even an expert witness for Congress at a Homeland Security Committee hearing in July.
Ultimately, these raised border walls have resulted in a record number of traumatic injuries, increased severity and mortality, and increased economic burden to our hospital systems.
Doucette has spoken with elected officials at all levels of government.
They're all very concerned, but unfortunately, nobody seems to have any answers to it.
He says today's political climate plays a significant role.
It's obvious when talking to representatives, it's a radioactive issue. Nobody wants to talk about the wall. The increase in injuries has occurred through 2 different administrations, and neither of them want to talk about this.
Both doctors plan to continue researching the issue and advocating for solutions. They're already collaborating with trauma doctors in Texas and Arizona to get an idea of just how widespread this problem is. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.